here in Torquay, and this is the location of the former Gleneagles Hotel, which was run and owned by a certain Donald Sinclair back in the late 1960s, early 1970s, and it was then that John Cleese and the Monty Python crew came to stay here. It was in May 1970 that the Monty Python team turned up in Torquay. They comprised of Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Terry Gilliam, Eric Idle, Terry Jones and Michael Palin. They were filming some of the Monty Pythons down on the Paynton seafront, and they decided to stay at the Gleneagles Hotel, at that time owned and run by Donald Sinclair, retired Lieutenant Commander in the Royal Navy, who didn't suffer fools gladly, particularly the acting types. And John Cleese was particularly intrigued by the character Donald Sinclair, who owned this hotel, and from this particular character then John Cleese was able to formulate his own character, Basil Fawlty, which was based on the owner of this hotel, the Gleneagles, which was sadly, well, Donald Sinclair sold it back in 1973. The Python team were not made all that welcome, and particularly Terry Gilliam, who was of American birth and had some strange habits according to Donald Sinclair. It then ran as a hotel, and then Best Western took it over for some years, and then in 2015 Gleneagles was demolished, and eventually planning permission was given to build this block of retirement apartments which stand here now. The block was called Sachs Lodge, named after the actor Andrew Sachs, who played Manuel. So this is Torquay, where John Cleese and the Monty Python crew came to stay back in the early 70s. It has to be said that it's more than likely that a retired Naval Commander didn't really take to the acting types too well, and that's probably started a little bit of friction developed. And it's a lovely sunny day, quiet part of Torquay. And well, stick around, watch the rest of the film. I hope you enjoy it. It's all about Fawlty Towers and how it started, how the character was born here.
Torquay, the quintessentially English seaside resort. It's the capital of the English Riviera, the birthplace of Agatha Christie, but the South Devon town is perhaps best known as the home of one of the most popular television sitcoms ever made. It all began here at the Hotel Gleneagles in Asheldon Road in 1971. The Monty Python team were filming nearby. Of all the hotels in Torquay they could have stayed at, they were booked in at this one. The rest, as they say, is history.
The owner at the time was a chap called Donald Sinclair, who was an ex-naval commander, a peppery little man, not 6'6" like Cleese was, but the opposite, in fact, a small man, but very peppery and very correct, and didn't like hotel guests. Would have been a wonderful job if it wasn't for the guests. The guests spoiled his job. Various stories come out about Donald Sinclair. 2 or 3 come to mind. One, Eric Idle, who was one of the Monty Python crew, had a briefcase in reception. And he had an alarm clock in there that was ticking. And Sinclair thought, my God, there's a bomb in there, and he threw it over the cliff. Terry Gilliam, who was an American, in fact, and as you know, the Americans tend to eat in a slightly different way to the way we do. They will cut their food, put the knife down, take the fork into the other hand, and then pick the food up with the fork. Well, this didn't suit Sinclair at all. This wasn't British. So as Gilliam was doing this, he would walk past and pick up the knife and say, sorry, we don't eat like that here.
He was was so gratuitously rude, because like all British hoteliers, he operated on the principle that I could run this hotel properly if it wasn't for the guests, you know, and if he behaved badly, it was rude, it was the guest's fault. You know what I mean? Because they were these awkward people who would come up and ask questions and complain about things. And he would sit at his desk and staring into space. And the moment he saw someone coming, he would pretend to be busy. He'd pick up a pencil and start doing all this stuff. Because I watched him once. And he does this, you see. And then he would pretend he didn't even know you were there. And you'd have to stand there for ages thinking, does he know I'm there? And then he'd say, excuse me. He'd say, oh, what? Oh, what? What is it now? And I remember one occasion I said to him, could you call me a taxi? He said, what? I said, could you call me a taxi down? And he said, call you a taxi?
Moment when Basil Fawlty had to go off and pick up some food for his gourmet chef's night, and the car wouldn't start. Decided to give it a beating with a stick.
And I said, yes, could you? He said, oh, yes, fine, yes, leave it to me, I'll do it. So there was this extraordinary rude and grudging attitude towards the guest. Now, he was quite small, physically, and Mrs. Sinclair was sizable. So it was more obviously the sort of henpecked husband situation by reversing it, because I couldn't be small, obviously, and Prue is not very tall. We kind of took it away a little bit from the more obvious aspects of the henpecked husband. But he went on and on in this way, and we did kind of garner material. I mean, oh, I tell you one extraordinary thing. One day, Eric and I were waiting for the car to take us filming.
Fortunately left his briefcase by the front door, which was subsequently disposed of by Donald Sinclair by throwing it over the wall, thinking it was a bomb.
And Eric left his briefcase by the door where he'd propped it up while we were just playing catch with a tennis ball. And when he got back, he went up to the desk, and Sinclair saw him coming. Excuse me, what? What is it now? He said, I'd left my briefcase. He said, yes, yes. He said, it's the other side of the wall. And he pointed out of the front door to a white wall, which was the far side of a swimming pool. And he said, it's behind the wall. And Eric said, what? He said, what? He said, it was behind the wall. He said, yes, yes, I'll put it behind the wall. Eric said, well, why did you put it, what? Why did you put it behind the wall? He said, we thought it might be a bomb. And we a bomb? And Sinclair said, well, we've had a lot of staff problems recently. So he really thought somebody'd fired and come back and put a bomb in a briefcase.
Welcome, Andrew Sachs. Now, first of all, could you tell us a bit, you were chosen to play the part of Manuel, and what your first impressions were of the part?
I'd been working with John Cleese in the early 70s on some training films for his company, Video Arts. So we got to know each other, he got to know my work, and we got on well together, worked well together, had similar sort of timing and no problems in the technical side. And during the making of one of those films, he brought up this pilot that he'd written for the BBC, and would I like to play the Spanish waiter? And my first impression was very nice, because I'd never been a regular contributor to a sitcom series. I thought, that's nice. I'd done guest things in Rising Damp and whatever. First regular part, I thought, wonderful. Then I thought, well, I'll ask him this. I love the idea, thank you, John, but could you make him a German waiter, because I'm not sure I can do a Spanish accent. And I come from Germany. German's my first language. So I thought that'd be easy. And he thought about this for a minute, bless him. And he must have thought, this guy's crazy. And he thought, no, I don't think so. Nice, but I don't think so.
And of course it wouldn't have worked as a German, can you imagine? Telling the guests to do exactly as they're told, not quite right. So I buckled down to it, mugged up the accent on the way to the studio, as it were, and we got on with it.
And he was born, so to speak.
And he was born, yes.
I said, if you don't open this door, I should bash it in. Well, after about 3 or 4 minutes, suddenly the door opened. He said, and he slammed it afterwards. He must have woke everybody up in the hotel. And he said, don't ever let it happen again.
Such incidents led several guests to seek alternative accommodation. Ian Jones's parents owned a rival hotel.
Our hotel, the Coppice, was situated within a few hundred yards of the Gleneagles. And we used to get sort of fugitives from the Gleneagles, used to come knocking on our door pleading for accommodation.
John Cleese embarked on filming for the series Fawlty Towers. The exterior filming took place at Woodburn Grange Country Club, which was in Buckinghamshire. As many people would have thought that it was based in Torquay. The essence of the story was that the hotel that Basil and Sybil ran, Fawlty Towers, was actually based on a hotel in Torquay, but in actual fact all the filming was done, certainly the exterior filming was done at Woodburn Grange Country Club in Buckinghamshire, and they also filmed other outside shots, namely when Basil had problems starting his car and he was beating it to try and get the engine started, which was in Harrow, and also they did some filming where they did Andre's, the exterior of Andre's restaurant for the gourmet night was filmed in Wembley. The rest of the inside of the Fawlty Towers was all filmed at the BBC studios. So I think it's quite interesting to note that while the story was based on a hotel in Torquay, in actual fact all the filming took place up in London or Buckinghamshire for the exterior shots. We just take a look at some of the more famous scenes of Sybil and the guy with his girlfriend and Basil trying to sort out the electrical problems in her bedroom and getting caught red-handed. There were many escapades throughout the whole of the series, and it was really 12 very enjoyable series of programmes. Sadly, the Woodburn Grange where they filmed actually burnt down in the early 1991, and then the hotel that was it was completely demolished, and now it's been turned into a rather upmarket housing estate. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed this look back at Fawlty Towers, where it originated from, which was back at the Gleneagles Hotel in Torquay, and how it developed into 12 series with Basil and Sybil running the Hotel Fawlty Towers. In essence, it was supposed to be in Torquay, and it was based on John Cleese's experiences staying at the Gleneagles Hotel back in the early 1970s. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed it. Stick around for the next film. It'd be great if you could subscribe, and I do really look forward to seeing you on the next one. All the best. Cheers.